Well, hello and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White. I'm so glad you joined me again today. And I would like to encourage you to share this recording today with everyone you know because today is all about exposing the abortion industry, their deceptive trade practices, their medical malpractice. And we have an attorney on today that's going to tell us his work in trying to hold those accountable who are fraudulent, lie, deceive, and injure women, and to bring down the injustice of abortion really through the legal methods. And so we want you to get informed. We want you to share this with everybody, and we want you to comment as well. So before I introduce our special guest, I want to introduce my awesome, wonderful co-host, Mary Browning.
Thank you, Molly. I am excited about today's podcast, and you're so right. This information needs to get out there. And we do anticipate there may be some information today that could trigger someone that has abortion in their past. And if you find yourself having an emotional reaction to any of the content today, we do think of that as a trigger, and we would invite you to contact the H3 helpline. So call that number. The people that will answer the phone have abortion in their past. They will help you get connected with healing. And then we're going to be talking today about how you might take some steps that could hold the abortion industry accountable at abortionindustry.com. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, Mary. And our guest is a returning guest. It's Michael Seibel. He is a private malpractice attorney who's dedicated his career to serving the pro-life community. And he is the co-founder of Abortion on Trial that Mary just mentioned, and the Southwest's leading pro-life enforcement and compliance organization. Now, over the years, he has worked with national and regional groups to shut down late-term abortion training programs, dismantle fetal tissue networks, and hold abortion providers accountable for negligence and abuse. Michael has also worked extensively with the Select Panel on Infant Lives, helping secure 2 criminal referrals against the University of New Mexico and late-term abortionist Curtis Boyd. Michael's work has been widely recognized with coverage in the Albuquerque Journal, the Associated Press, National Review, Live Action, Life News, the American Family Journal, and the Daily Caller. His tireless commitment to pursuing justice has made him a trusted advocate for women and families harmed by abortion and a respected leader in pro-life legal enforcement. Thank you for your work, Michael, and thank you for being back on with us again today.
Always happy to be with you guys. You guys are doing incredible work, and I'm honored to be here today.
Well, thank you. And that's been a dream of mine for many, many, many years, is to hold the abortion industry accountable for what I call medical malpractice, deceptive trade practices, and really exploiting vulnerable pregnant women for their personal financial gain. And to have someone like you back on our show again today is encouraging, knowing that there's someone out there who's actually taking those steps.
We do. My co-counsel and I, Justin Hall, we take care of all those areas, the medical malpractice, the deceptive trade practices, and any other area where we can hold the abortion industry accountable. And we continue to do that on a daily basis.
And so, for me, getting this information out there is important because I want women and men to know out there that you have an advocate on your side. If you've been harmed by your abortion, and unfortunately, we do have statute of limitations in some states. I don't know about all the states and how long they are, but you need to do something about it. If you've been harmed, if you were deceived, if you were not told the truth about the abortion drugs and how it affects you and your baby, or even a surgical abortion, then we need to hold these people accountable and not let it continue to go on and continue to hurt other people. So we want to encourage you to get in touch with Michael. And real quick, Michael, can you give us a contact information for our listeners?
Sure. You can always call our office. My office in particular is 505-275-1700. We have trained paralegals who can get you to the right area to make sure if you have a case or not, or they'll get a call to me. Also, you can go to www.abortioninjury.com. We have a page there that you can fill out confidentially, or you could call the law offices of Justin Hall. I think his number is on that particular website.
Thank you. I wanted to get that out there before, somebody might switch over or something. But so what are some of the the challenges, I was mentioning that we don't really, like Texas, I think the statute of limitations is 2 or 3 years after a medical event, right? Do you
That
know
is
that?
correct. I think Texas is a 2-year statute of limitations. They vary from state to state. Obviously, I've seen them as short as 2 years, as long as 5 years, all over the country. So it's very important that you get to an attorney very, very quickly who can evaluate your case. If you've been injured, if you've been harmed, even if you suffer some type of emotional distress as a result, where it's significant, where you're hospitalized for suicidal ideations. I think that is a new emerging area. We also have other emerging areas that we get involved with regard to informed consent lately. So it's been an interesting ride. But if you're injured as a result of surgical or as a result of the abortion pill, please call our website or go to our website, call us. We will evaluate your case and see what you have to do to get this going. But it's urgent that you do it very, very quickly, because your statute of limitations might run. I just encountered a case the other day in New Jersey where the statute of limitations had run, which so severely limits the options of the people that are involved.
Yes, absolutely. And injured could be like if you were terribly misinformed about what you were going to do. For example, if they gave you the abortion drugs and they said it was just like taking an aspirin, or you might feel some slight cramping and heavier bleeding. Don't tell the doctors if you end up in the emergency room that you took the drugs. Anything that's misinformed and you are not fully informed about, to me, that's medical malpractice. Is that not correct, Michael?
Well, yes. And what we are doing now at abortioninjury.com is we are really going on that informed consent issues across the country, whether it be
Mhm.
injury or the loss of the baby, which I think is important for your viewers. We have a couple of cases where the women have not had informed consent all the way through, and they're at varying stages, so they have differences between the two of them. But because of that, we are suing for the wrongful death or the wrongful loss of that particular baby, because they haven't had informed consent.
Right, absolutely. It's all about the loss of the child, but still, it's the effect of, them not being told. In fact, I just listened to a testimony the other day that with this SBA, and the woman was, of course, traumatized because she saw her baby after it passed from taking the abortion drugs. And it was very traumatizing. And then she was left with a dilemma of what to do with the baby's body. And they're not being informed about that. They're not being told any of that information. And to me, that's worthy of a lawsuit.
Well, it may be worthy of a lawsuit for a variety of reasons. I mean, they call all the time. I mean, we get people who call all over the United States to our website saying, I've seen the baby, I'm traumatized. What do I do with the baby's body? And, we have certain guidelines that we use in these situations, because each law in each state differs. So you might be held, desecrating a corpse if you don't do the right thing in your particular state. So I urge people, if they are in that situation, to call an attorney who can guide them on what they can do with the baby's body, if that is the particular case.
Amen. Well, I was trying to get to some of the cases that you have done here recently, Michael. One of them that brought some, red flags, or just kind of shocked me a little bit, was about a woman who was arrested by the abortion industry.
So yes, we represent a woman in the southern part of the United States who went in for a chemical abortion, and the chemical abortion did not work. She was forced to sign a paper that said if the chemical abortion did not work, she would go through a surgical abortion. She didn't feel like she wanted to go through the surgical abortion. She wanted to keep the baby at that time, but she felt, though, she signed this paper that said she must go through the surgical abortion if the chemical abortion failed. So she went through the surgical abortion. Well, the surgical abortion didn't work, and she was at home, and she gave birth to a baby, or the baby, which was about 13 weeks at that particular time. And she called the abortionist, who said, "Come on down." Her husband was very, very upset. They went down to the abortion clinic. The abortionist had left. They walked in. The lady demanded to see the abortionist. They said, "Well, we can't do that because he's not here." She showed him the baby. She then said, "I want all my medical records." They refused to give her the medical records. And then after that, she said, "I want my baby back." And the abortion clinic worker said, "No, this is mine. You can't have it anymore." So she got very, very, very upset and started yelling and screaming. They had already called the cops. The cops were there upon arrival. And the police officer said, "Do you want me to arrest her for disturbing the peace?" And the abortion clinic said, "Absolutely, arrest her." So she got arrested. She was walking out saying, they stole my baby. They stole my baby." Her husband saw this and put his hand on the police officer, and he was arrested as well in this situation. So you had two people arrested for going in and having an abortion that she really didn't want. So we not only sued for emotional distress, and this is in the process right now, but we sued because she was coerced into having that abortion. That baby was lost as a result of them coercing her, putting in writing that she must go through an abortion if the surgical abortion failed. And for your listeners, you don't have to do that. Matter of fact, the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists have a specific policy. If the abortion pill fails, they must re-counsel you regarding the surgical abortion and give you all options, including keeping your pregnancy. So if this has happened to you anywhere in the United States, and I know abortion industry does this all over the United States, please give us a call, because you may have lost that baby unnecessarily. You may have changed your mind. I've always been taught since I was a young child by my mom, by other women in my life, that women have a right to change their minds. Well, this is an important time that they have the right to change their mind, and they need to know of their options in every single solitary case. And the abortion industry recognizes that fact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mary, did you have something?
Yes, Michael, I was wondering if there was a listener that wasn't sure if they had had an injury or not. Do you know, or can you describe what would be some common injuries that you see in the cases that you've handled?
Sure. In the cases of a handle, obviously death is a very big common injury that we see because of sepsis. But death is the ultimate. But what we see is sepsis. A lot of sepsis, either from retained products of conception that are improperly managed, or in late-term abortion cases because the baby is still inside and they can't get the baby out. We see infertility, especially as a result of Rh factor infertility, because they don't check for Rh factor. We see ruptured ectopic pregnancies. It's not necessarily due to the abortion pill, but the abortion pill warns practitioners that if there is an ectopic pregnancy and you don't do an ultrasound, you may be held liable. Also, what you see are women who are forced to have abortions in the situation by a boyfriend putting a pill in their drink. This could be a possibility if the boyfriend got the pills as a male from the mail order or from the physician. Obviously, there is some retribution that you can file. Also, you got to make sure that your criminal case is filed correctly if that has happened to you. We did that in New York for a woman because we wouldn't file on her behalf for a battery, so we intervened with the police officer and the district attorney to get that case entered into a New York City docket. There might be a situation where you have incredible bleeding, and right now what we're looking at is the emotional distress, like informed consent, suicidal ideations. Those are type of injuries that we are specifically looking for right now, because we actually want to file wrongful death suits on behalf of babies where their informed consent wasn't properly given for a variety of reasons. We have one case right now in New Mexico that is ongoing, and pray for us in this litigation, because what we did is the woman had a substance abuse disorder. So she came into our office and said, "I kind of regret the abortion." And we looked into it, and there's actually a protocol that most abortionists should follow, which is they should refer substance abuse disordered women out for treatment rather than for the abortion. They knew she was intoxicated. They did the abortion anyway. So what we brought is we applied to the court for a wrongful death estate for the baby. And we created a wrongful death estate for the baby and sued on behalf of mom individually, as well as the baby as a person under New Mexico law. And we got a person wrongful death estate established. We filed that lawsuit. And I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks we'll have an announcement that we will have the first settlement for a wrongful death of a baby as a result of the abortion in the United States history. There have been over 72 million abortions, and never has the baby filed against the abortionist for justice. And this is our hope, that we can obtain some type of justice for this particular estate.
That's absolutely wonderful. And I wish I could go back and sue for wrongful death, because I certainly wasn't informed, even though I asked questions, asked questions, specific questions, and was told lies all the way through. And that was a wrongful death of my baby, because I would have never had chosen abortion if they would have answered my questions. So, but that's been a long time ago. Can't do anything about it now, but it's important. I think all of our listeners and all of our viewers, you need to know you have the right for factual information. You can't go get any kind of a medical procedure done without all kinds of informed consent. I mean, they go over everything that's possibly could go wrong, everything that they're going to do, and then you have to give them consent in order to do that. And that certainly does not happen with the abortion industry, because if they did tell you the truth, then you wouldn't have an abortion.
That's exactly right. And the other thing that I would caution your listeners about is read through your informed consent. You may be consenting unknowingly to your baby, to your placenta, to your blood to be used for medical research purposes. And that is also a violation of the informed consent, which we have sued on in the past, which you may have a wrongful death of the baby claim. You may have different types of claims for battery as a result of giving up your bodily fluids or your bodily tissues, as well as the baby's tissues, without your knowledge. There are specific laws with regard to fetal tissue research that they have to follow, and it's my experience they never follow.
Mm-hmm. And I want to ask Mary to elaborate on this a little bit, because you mentioned the RH factor, which I don't know if abortionists test women for RH factors. But Mary, can you kind of brief our audience on that and the implications if that's not tested?
Well, my understanding is if it's your first baby and the RH negative factor, if your blood type and your baby's blood type are not compatible, that you do, as the mother, need to have some shots to counteract, so that the subsequent babies that you have, that you conceive, your body won't think that's an enemy and try to discard it through miscarriage. And so I think, because at least in my experience of abortion of my first child, there was never any discussion about RH factor or testing whether or not my baby and I were compatible and whether or not I needed to have the shots. And I think most women are unfamiliar with that. And I just asked Michael if you have seen that occur, or if you've had situations that you've represented where the RH negative factor wasn't tested and there was some subsequent miscarriage problem for the women.
I've seen a few situations that are like that. They have not retained us as of this time yet, but it is a worry that I have. There are a lot of doctors. If you actually go and see the doctor, most OBGYN family medicine doctors will still do the RH testing. It's still left over from the National Abortion Federation guidelines that they do it in almost every case. However, with these mail order pharmacies, they're not testing for RH factor. And, like the Satanic Temple, which only does mail order abortion pills here in New Mexico, I know they don't test for RH factor compatibility. And that is going to lead to a lot of women having miscarriages later in life. And it's important to know, as soon as you have one of those miscarriages, you got to go back to your records and you got to look and say, was I tested for RH factor? And is this incompatibility something that I may have had? So those are things that may go beyond the typical statute of limitations, because you don't discover them until the next time you're pregnant. So even if you have a series of miscarriages later in life as a result of you don't know why, I think you need to contact an attorney, see if you have a case, see if they evaluated you for RH factor compatibility with your baby.
Absolutely.
Well,
so you're saying, Michael, that most abortion providers do test for RH factor?
Believe it or not, most of them do. Most of them are trained under the NAF guidelines, the National Abortion Federation guidelines. So until recently, they had guidelines that would test as soon as well, as soon as they came in the office, but definitely before 6 weeks. Now they've moved those guidelines to testing for any RH factor compatibility to 10 to 11 weeks. And I think that's still a little bit of malpractice overall, because I think you should be doing it even at 6 weeks.
Thank you. Mary?
Well, I was just wondering then, if a listener has had an abortion earlier in their life and they find themselves having trouble carrying a baby to term, they're miscarrying, would it be your recommendation that they contact? We know some attorneys would be familiar, like you all, Michael, but I would really want them to encourage them to contact abortioninjury.com, because we know that Michael and the attorneys that he works with are familiar with this detail. Some attorneys out there might not be. So I just want to encourage our listeners to contact abortioninjury.com or one of the phone numbers that Michael mentioned beforehand. Not because we're necessarily trying to drive you just to Michael, but we know that the group he works with is familiar with this issue. So we just want to encourage you to examine that and explore what the possibilities are if you are having trouble with miscarriage and had an abortion of your first baby.
Yes, and I mean, the other thing is if you do contact another attorney, refer them to our website. I mean, you can refer them if you're listening to our website. We'll always talk to another attorney. We have no problem. Plus, we need local counsel in every state that we're in. But make sure you mention RH factor incompatibility when you walk in, and that's a concern of yours, because I think a lot of typical medical malpractice attorneys don't understand the intricacies of abortion and abortion policies and procedures that we are very, very familiar with.
Yes, that's why you should go to abortioninjury.com and work with people who are very, very familiar with it. So, Michael, let's kind of move on to, you were talking about how the National Association, was it of Reproductive Rights or the NARAL, I don't know if it's NARAL, about training their abortion providers. But from what I understand, there's this group called the Ryan Residency Program. And if I understand correctly, they do a lot of abortion training.
So the Ryan Residency Program is Planned Parenthood 5.0. I mean, it has been designed by Warren Buffett and the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation. It was originally put into place by Dr. Philip Darney, Dr. Yuta Landy, and Dr. Curtis Boyd, who I've faced many, many times in my career at the University of San Francisco way back in the early 2000s. They realized that the abortion industry was aging out back in the early 2000s, and they wanted a new program to train abortionists. So they developed this program at UCSF in the late 1990s, and now that network of universities who provide training programs has grown to 126. I think that was the last I looked, programs throughout the country at universities and corporate medicine, corporate health organizations throughout the country. And they train abortionists, and they've trained over 7,000 abortionists since 2001. To provide abortions all the way across the country. They have lobbied the American College of Graduate Medical Education to require abortion training for all OBGYNs. You actually have to opt out rather than opt in. I think you need to talk to your local legislators in Texas to make sure, or wherever you are, that you change those guidelines and make sure that they have to opt in rather than opt out for your universities there. But they're in universities all over this country. I've seen them in Texas. I've seen them. I mean, they're not officially named in Texas. They have one in Wash U in Missouri. Their flagship programs are essentially the University of California, San Francisco, University of Oregon, the University of Michigan has become the biggest flagship right now. That's where they are. The Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation has pretty much moved their headquarters to the University of Michigan. And they've just spent $45 million in Michigan to create a new super abortion clinic that can infect all the University of Michigan satellite offices throughout the country. So they don't need Planned Parenthood anymore, but they do in fact run the Planned Parenthoods.
This is just so disturbing, and especially that you have to opt out, of doing something that would go against your personal beliefs and systems, and how they get in there and just really brainwash medical students into thinking, abortion is a regular medical procedure. instead of a life-taking, intrusive, harmful surgery.
Yes, and they are brainwashing abortionists. And, I liken it to once somebody does, kill somebody in Vietnam, it's easier to kill the next person and the next person and the next person. The
Mhm.
same goes for the abortion industry. Once an OBGYN does one abortion, it's easier to do the next one and the next one and the next one. So when they have to go through this abortion training that has a rotation, usually at the Planned Parenthood or a local abortion clinic outside that they provide the interns for, or even in places like Tennessee, they ship them out to, for instance, the University of Cincinnati to do their training there, or they can do the training there. They'll do a little rotation out there, and they'll teach these abortionists how to kill babies. But that's not the only danger. The biggest danger is they have something even worse, which is they're developing abortion policy across this country. And I'm sure Mary has experienced this in her Missouri cases, that they will just get tons and tons of doctors in their white coats to do research and then go testify in the cases against us all over the country. But would I be right in that, Mary?
Absolutely, absolutely, Michael. I know in Missouri, the trial where Planned Parenthood brought forward doctors that said basically they had one doctor, Daniel Grossman from California, that said a child doesn't feel, he didn't call him a child, the tissue doesn't feel pain even up to a year old. That means after birth. And so, in that sense, when you were describing that, Michael, what was occurring to me was the callousness then of the taking of the life of these innocent babies and the misinformation of the mothers who are not told this is actually the termination of the life of a separate existing human being when you talk about the informed consent. So it is horrendous. I think the public and maybe our listeners would be appalled to learn at what's going on around the country and the misinformation and the way there's just a callous attitude and the deception that this is not the taking of a life. Somehow this is reproductive freedom. And this is not a baby yet. I mean, we heard that as well. I've heard that from the women that have had abortions being told, it's not a baby yet. It's not a baby yet. Well, we know it is.
After the
Daniel
fact.
Grossman. Daniel Grossman is the most prolific testifier in the country. He is
Mhm.
well behind the abortion pill. He testifies frequently about the abortion pill. He is on Twitter. He's everywhere. He is the bane of my existence in some respects because he is the expert that they go to all the time. But they are training 7,000 more of those, and they're in
Mm.
your communities. If you're in South Carolina, you've got two universities there that have Ryan residency programs, public universities that get taxpayer funds. If you're in
Mhm.
Florida, you have three universities, two of which get taxpayer funds. The University of South
Mm.
Florida and the University of Florida Gainesville are both, those public funds that get universities. University of Virginia, University of Wisconsin, University of Colorado has one. I've seen it. You can go to the Ryan Residency website and you can see your local public universities are training abortionists with your taxpayer dollars. And
Mm.
what ends up happening is like we have in New Mexico. New Mexico, this has been here since 2001. They have such control over government. They have two publicly funded universities that putting up $10 million abortion clinics in Las Cruces, New Mexico, as well as in the northern part of the state. So they are infecting your university systems under your nose without you knowing about it, running your Planned Parenthoods. They are the monster behind this entire thing. They're providing studies to back up all their crazy theories and all their unbelievable wild ideas that they have about late-term abortion, the abortion pill. So you have to talk to your legislators if you're in that side of things and expose your universities across the country, especially Michigan and Ohio right now, because those are two of the big places where they are really rapidly expanding into the state government and into their state run universities, University of Michigan and Ohio State and University of Cincinnati.
Wow. So, Michael, is all this information on your abortion injury website?
Well, the Ryan residency program is not. That is something that I I kind of stumbled upon it early in my career. They had a contract in New Mexico for the Ryan residency to train at Curtis Boyd's, but they didn't get the regents to sign it. So when I investigated this in 2015, I realized that that was an invalid contract. So I terminated the University of New Mexico's late term Ryan residency program back in 2015. This is something that we have to start talking about on a nationwide basis. This is a personal pet project of mine. I want to end the university programs that are going across the country, but until we get people who will look into these programs on a national basis, or we fund some of this, we are behind the eight ball. Planned Parenthood is great. The big nasty person that's overall the front man of the abortion industry, but really the Ryan residency is driving the future of abortion in this country, and we need to start to become aware of that.
Become aware and shut them down. So our listeners and our viewers can really contact their state representatives, their state senators, and say, "This is what I've learned. I want you to check into it." Or do that, or do your research yourself, and then say, "We want to demand that our tax dollars are not being spent on this Ryan residency program training our medical students to be abortionists." I mean, that is just, hard to swallow, to tell you the truth.
That is correct. And if you need any help, you can always contact our website or my office. If you are one of those people who wants to look in locally, I've got strategies that we can use in your local area. It's always helpful. I mean, we do need a big organization. I lobby in the pro-life movement that we need a counterintelligence unit inside of that so that we can discover this and get this out to our organizations across the country. And if we could ever fund something like that, I think we could do some damage to the Ryan residency programs.
Well, let's do it. I know some counterintelligence people that are retired that I can call upon.
Well, we're really good. We just don't have the bandwidth to get into that. I mean, there's also some great people at Live Action who does some incredible work on counterintelligence at Operation Rescue. We just need to finally decide we need a counterintelligence unit inside the pro-life community.
Amen. Mary, were you going to ask something?
Well, one of the things it's causing me to think about is the American College of OBGYNs, ACOG, and the way even that organization has been infiltrated by a pro-abortion minded. I think the public would be surprised to learn that across the country, I think the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs has been established to recognize that there are two patients. When you have a pregnant mother, there are two patients. Whereas ACOG, the American College of OBGYNs, is basically promoting abortion and not recognizing the second patient as the baby. And the failure of the rescinding of the Hippocratic Oath. So I don't know how you see that fitting in, Michael, but that was what was coming up for me as you were talking about.
So I use the ACOG's guidelines in a variety of different things for lawsuits regarding women being trafficked to abortionists. I use their guidelines for substance abuse disordered people. I use their guidelines even for informed consent regarding what happens after the abortion pill doesn't work, which happens in 7% of the cases. They have a duty under their own guidelines to recounsel to say, you can keep this baby. And they just don't do it in the abortion industry. They sound good with all these policies and procedures, but when it comes down to actual practice, they don't follow their own policies and procedures. So we need other organizations like ours that will come out and say, you didn't follow the guidelines in ACOG. You got to read the guidelines. You have to depose these people on the other side because they don't even follow their own guidelines.
That's because it's all about making money. And if they did follow the guidelines, they wouldn't make as much money.
And it's not only about making money, but it's about killing children. They are euthanizing certain peoples and certain portions of this society that are less or disadvantaged, the poor, the minorities, and the disabled that the abortion industry truly preys on. And they're just horrible about this. So it's not only money, but it's a political ideology as well, that they want to get rid of the least of society. And that's what we're here to protect, is the least of society, and give them a voice.
Right. You're absolutely right. They were founded on the eugenics movement to rid society of people they think is undesirable. And you're absolutely right. So, Ryan, Michael, I wanted to ask you, when you say go to your website to get more information about Ryan residency, which website are you referring to?
You can go to abortionindustry.com. Just say I'm interested in learning more about the Ryan residency on the website. I will call you back. I will talk to you about what you can do in that particular area. You can call my office. I will be more than happy to say this is what we can do in your local area. If you think your university is getting involved in the Ryan residency, the first thing is I would go Google the Ryan residency locations, and it'll have an entire list of locations. Remember, you can do and you can request as a local citizen in your area, you can request information about what's going on through the inspection of public records requests under the state statutes or the FOIA, the General Freedom of Information Act requests under the federal statutes. So you can start to do some of this research on your own and bring it to the legislators in your area. I have a funny story in the University of Cincinnati. When we brought this out that they were doing abortions at the University of Cincinnati, one lady contacted us saying that she had contacted the University of Cincinnati, and she said, "I'm no longer donating to you." And they said, "Well, that's okay." And then she said, "Well, I also donated my body to science, and I'm revoking my gift, my anatomical gift to science because you're doing abortions on people, and I don't like that at the University of Cincinnati." And they got really upset with her. But it brought me to the realization that this lady said, "You're not going to do this over my dead body."
For myself. Wow.
She's
That's
not going to
good.
give her dead body to the University of Cincinnati anymore. And this is the type of impact, although it's small, it's needed amongst all of us in this country to finally stand up against these government organizations that are secretly doing abortions in your community. And, you've got to bring this out in your local communities.
That's right, absolutely. Well, I wanted to kind of need to wrap up a little bit, but I wanted Mary to discuss. We talked about a woman's right to change her mind. We talked about the abortion pill, but we didn't really mention abortion pill reversal. And I think we just need to plug that, Mary.
Well, yes, thank you, Molly. We do want our listeners to know that if you're pregnant and you've taken that first pill, or you know someone that has, that first pill is mifepristone, and ordinarily, and to reverse that, there is abortion pill reversal. You just go to that, I think it's abortionpillreversal.com, and you'll be put in touch with someone that can help you get just this progesterone. It counteracts that drug that's intended to cause your baby to starve to death by disengaging from the uterus. So we just encourage you to do that. Thank you, Molly, for the opportunity to let
Yeah.
people know.
And just
And
like
if
with the, go ahead, Michael. Go
if
ahead.
your provider, if you asked your provider and he said, "Well, I don't know of anything or I don't recommend this," I'd encourage you to call our website too. I think that the abortion pill reversal is another option that people might have in this. As a patient, that requires informed consent and at least giving you the option, because they have to discuss all options with you. And the abortion pill reversal is merely progesterone, and you can just ask about progesterone as well, but they have a duty to counsel you on all your options that you have. So you might give us a call if you didn't receive that from the abortion industry.
Good. So they should be informing patients who take the mifepristone that there is abortion pill reversal. Is that what you're saying?
If they're specifically asked about options about reversing the abortion pill, I think they have to tell you about it. They have at least have the ability to inform you of all the options that are currently available.
But they don't most of the time.
Well, a lot
I'm
of
a
it is.
negative. I know a lot of the abortion industry and how they operate, and they're not up and up.
Well, what they base that on is they think that misoprostol will cause birth defects, and the studies are kind of against that. It's no greater than the overall community that you're going to have birth defects as a result of taking misoprostol. So they don't want to tell you about the abortion pill. But I think they have a duty to, and they strongly have a duty to say you don't have to go through an abortion if the abortion pill didn't work. So, and I reiterate this. I'm going to do an op-ed on this particular issue. As many people, 7% of the abortion pills don't work at any particular time. They are specifically told by the abortion industry they must, not that they can, but must go through an abortion afterwards. And if we could just save half of that 7%, that's 30 or 40,000 babies a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the catch here about abortion pill reversal is you need to take that drug before 72 hours after you've taken the mifepristone. So just like we have a statute of limitations for medical malpractice things, there's also a timeline. So if you've taken that drug, you need to get abortion pill reversal prior to 72 hours for it to be the most effective. And reversing that drug means that your baby has a higher likelihood of surviving. And I think it's a pretty high number, isn't it, Mary, that we remember from
I think it's close to 65%. And the closer in time. So for the listeners that may not know, the abortion pill is really a 2-drug protocol. The first one is mifepristone. The second is misoprostol. The closer in time that you take that reversal to the mifepristone, the first pill, the higher the likelihood your baby's life will be preserved. Yes.
And if you feel that you've been misinformed, misled, injured physically, emotionally, psychologically by your abortion, then please contact Michael or after abortioninjury.com and take that step to get justice for yourself and your baby. I mean, your baby deserves justice. We deserve justice for being lied to and deceived about the abortion industry that led to the cause of our death of our babies, and which has caused for me and Mary decades of regret and sorrow because of that. So we don't want you to be, ashamed or fearful. Please just take that bold step and reach out to Michael Seibel and abortioninjury.com. If your life is not the same prior to your abortion, if you're suffering more things than you ever thought, depression, suicidal ideation, regret, remorse, sadness, depression, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, any kind of things like that, then that's related to that abortion. And you are probably not properly informed that could be a consequence of that choice. And you deserve justice for that. So anyway, I just appeal to you and for you to even let others know that there is legal help for you to seek justice for you and your baby. And that's with Michael Seibel and the abortioninjury.com. So take that step. Michael, we're going to end in just a minute. Is there anything else that you would like to close with?
No, I just want to say, there is no judgment at our firm overall. You want to give us a call, you think you're embarrassed. We've seen everything. We understand. We represent women. We represent women who are hurt by abortion. We want to see them get justice, to get healing, to get better overall. There's nothing we haven't seen or heard about that you can't call us about. And it's confidential as we are in an attorney-client relationship. So I'd encourage you, if you're suffering, if you're hurt, if you're doing something out there and you believe it's the abortion injury's fault, call our office or call an attorney who knows what they're doing, because this is an emerging area across the country. And I think we're going to see a rapid change in the next 10 to 15 years and people suing their abortionists.
Amen. And let's start working on changing some of those statute of limitation laws in our states as well. Well, thank you, Michael. This has been very informative, and I hope our listeners have learned a lot and hope you take action, because that's what's important. You can't just keep this information and do nothing. Now we have to do something, and I hope you do so. And if you want to contact me or Mary, you can do that at host@moreofthestorypodcast.com, and we'll be glad to help you in any way we can too. Well, thank you for joining in. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Michael. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Molly, I know you've signed off, but it's just occurring to me that we might also mention that if someone out there has had an abortion and they recognize they have had pain and complications in their life, maybe beyond the point of bringing an action, but they could sign a declaration at operationoutcry.org, and they could lend their experience in the legal battles and in different fronts on that. So operationoutcry.org, complete a declaration there. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, and thank y'all. All right. Thank y'all. We'll see you next time. God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless.